I have a dream. Those were the words immortalized by the late Martin Luther King Jr. in 1963, and now in 2020, some advocates are looking to further Dr. King's message. Hear how one group of white activists is raising millions of dollars to create a new and inspiring MLK quote. And later, a troubling new report has found nearly 80% of car accidents happen inside the home. We've got the latest on how to keep you and your family safe while you're burning rubber in your living room. From The Onion and Onion Public Radio, I'm Leslie Price, and this is The Topical. We might not be the most informative news podcast out there, but we're certainly the shortest, so stay with us. Calls for racial justice have echoed through our cities and on social media in the past weeks as more protesters across the country demand change. But for white allies like myself, it can sometimes be difficult to know how exactly we can bring about equality in these troubling times. Luckily, one online organization is doing their part to bring awareness to the cause, raising over $5 million, all in an effort to create a brand new Martin Luther King quote. For more, I'm joined by OPR's Marcy Hammond.
Hi, Leslie.
Marcy, this just seems like a wonderful campaign. What can you tell us about the Good Samaritans behind this project?
Well, it all started with the Facebook group White Lives for Black Lives, an activism page run by Reed Bailey, who, like so many others, says she felt hurt and confused on how to best show she was an ally. So she decided to use her social platform for good.
We just wanted to do something big to show we want change, and we felt like posting the same old Martin Luther King quotes just wasn't enough. Plus, a lot of other activism pages had already posted all the really good ones, so we thought, what would Dr. King say if he were here today? And that's when we came up with the idea to ask people for money so we could find out.
And raise money they did. As you mentioned, Leslie, Bailey and her organization have already eclipsed their initial $200,000 goal, crowdsourcing more than $5 million toward coming up with new and inspiring quotes to attribute to the civil rights leader.
Wow, and all $5 million are going towards this? Nothing else?
That's right.
Just remarkable. I think we can all use a little more of King's message in these times.
That's true, but even with the massive influx of cash, Bailey says the initiative wasn't without its difficulties.
Well, when we first tried to post the new quotes using the hashtag New Day for MLK, all our quotes ended up getting overshadowed by people posting old Martin Luther King quotes like "Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere," which is not what this was about. This movement is about what we think he would say today, not in the past.
Sure.
So then we tried getting other white activists involved in crowdsourcing the quotes, but unfortunately a lot of the submissions came from people who, let's just say, weren't the right kind of white activists. So a lot of the new Dr. King quotes contain some pretty vile hate speech.
Wow, sounds like these white activists really had to endure some hardships.
They did, but these setbacks haven't deterred them from their mission. According to Bailey, White Lives for Black Lives has hired 3 full-time graphic designers to make eye-catching memes, and they've also started a partnership with a Cambridge-based AI company to create an MLK quote generator. Here are just a few of the inspiring words it's been able to come up with.
Time will come downstream together for the sisterhood of working class into the slavery night. That's an early one. It's gotten a lot better. Like this one. We are but one nation that will forever be a country, united by bigotry and states. For racism is old like the founding father. We, as the Eagle Wars, our founding father together.
Oh, amen, Reverend. I swear it's almost like he's in the room with me.
Yeah, really touching.
Well, thanks for that report, Marcy, and thank you to everyone over at White Lives for Black Lives for carrying on the message. If you'd like to make a donation toward helping white allies come up with new things for Dr. King to say, you can find more information on our website. Back in a moment. The National Rifle Association. It may be one of America's most storied institutions, but it's also become a lightning rod for controversy, and that's led to some serious lackluster fundraising numbers. In fact, the NRA has experienced significant financial struggles, losing tens of millions of dollars over just the past few years. But that all might be about to change today, thanks to some new fundraising initiatives by the organization. For more, we turn to OPR's National Rifle Association correspondent Marcy Hammond. Hello, Marcy.
Hi, Leslie. Well, as you mentioned, the NRA has been struggling severely for donations this year, but there seems to be a righting of the ship taking place, as the NRA today has reported a massive funding increase from donors held at gunpoint.
Interesting tactic. How much money are we talking?
Well, over the past quarter, the NRA says it's raised over $15 million from donors who are awoken in bed with a pistol in their face, informed that a child on a playground is within an NRA sniper's range, or simply grabbed by armed fundraisers on the street. I spoke to NRA Outreach Director Mark Morgan yesterday about the gun rights group's newfound financial success.
Turns out people are really generous with their donations when you ask them with a .45 pressed against their chest. Previously, we'd always relied on emails and phone banks to source donations, but sticking guns in people's faces just adds that personal touch. You can see people really struggling with the realization that not donating could have real consequences. We're even seeing telephone donations go up once donors realize that they've got a red dot on their head.
And with the NRA now projecting over $500 million in year-over-year profits from holding up donors, I wanted to see the fundraising machine in action. Fortunately, Mark agreed to take me along on a fundraising drive through a neighborhood near the organization's headquarters in Fairfax, Virginia.
Oh, look, there's a donor.
Wow, that was fast.
Hey, if you're packing heat, everyone's a potential NRA donor. Hey, you!
What? Oh my God, you have a gun.
Give me all your fucking donations.
Please, don't hurt me.
Don't move or I'll fundraise your whole family.
I've attended a lot of fundraisers, but never one like this.
Oh God, please, Jesus, just don't shoot me. Here, take it. Take everything.
Yeah, fuck you. Whew. Wow.
Oh, wow.
That guy just donated $84.19.
And his iPhone and watch.
We're bringing the NRA's fundraising practices into the 21st century. Actually, while I've got you here, Marcy, do you feel like donating to the NRA?
Luckily, I too was packing, so I was able to get out of there without having to fork over any more cash.
Good work. It's like I always say, the only way to stop a bad fundraiser with a gun is to blow his brains out.
Exactly.
Now, Marcy, I gotta ask, with more people catching on to these fundraising tricks and their outreach director dead, how sustainable are these donation numbers for the NRA?
That is certainly cause for concern within the organization, but the NRA feels confident they'll be able to continue bringing in money through new initiatives, like targeting repeat donors and knocking off gas stations. They're also hopeful that future plans to kidnap children of Congress members so they'll pass favorable legislation will pay dividends in the long run as well.
Good plan. Thanks for the report, Marcy. That's OPR's Marcy Hammond. We'll be back right after this. It's an affliction that many people don't like to talk about, but one that more and more people are suffering from each day, especially around this time of year. In fact, it's reported that more Americans than ever before are regularly experiencing intrusive thoughts of their father naked. But how exactly can we keep the image of our father's nude and weathered body out of our psyche more effectively? Well, today we're joined by Dr. Laura Dalbert to give us some helpful advice on just that. Dr. Dalbert, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Leslie. Happy to be here.
So this is a scenario I think a lot of listeners can relate to. You're at home cooking dinner or listening to a podcast while you're doing the dishes when all of a sudden, bang, you're suddenly invaded by thoughts of your father stripping nude, completely nude. Head to toe, balls and all, and you're powerless to stop it. What should someone do when faced with such a situation?
Well, first off, it's important to make sure that listeners know that even though these perverse thoughts of your father's naked body are unhealthy, you are not powerless to stop thinking about its contours and how it glistens with sweat from a hard day's work.
Or maybe from making love to your mother?
That's right. When you feel titillating thoughts like this coming on, you just need to remind yourself that these are only thoughts of your father's tight ass, and they exist only in your head.
That's reassuring. It can feel so scary when the image of your nude father gyrating his hips creeps into your head. Sometimes it feels so real, like he's standing right in front of me slapping his penis against his thighs. But you're right, it's nothing more than a thought.
Exactly.
But what if you can't avoid it? What if you're already picturing your father's gray, unkempt body hair that covers every inch of him? How do you reset, so to speak?
Well, again, I can't stress enough that you should not be thinking about your father lotioning up his bare paunch. But if you find yourself doing so, it's important that you acknowledge, rather than avoid the thoughts of your father's hairy chest and how it's just begging you to run your fingers through it. Because the more taboo you make it, the hotter it will become, and the more you'll end up thinking about it.
Yeah.
So it's important to face this problem head on.
Interesting.
Now, to reset, I actually have a little trick for this that I want to walk you through.
All right.
Okay, I want you to think about your father totally naked. Are you doing it?
Oh, yes.
Great. Now that you have him naked in your head, try putting a G-string on him, and then maybe some pasties over his taut erect nipples. And then steadily keep adding clothes until he's completely covered up.
Oh, wow, that does work.
I'm glad. In the end, though, it's essential that you know what triggers these thoughts so you can prevent them from ever happening in the first place. For example, I find myself compelled to think about my father naked right now, but I know it's only because he's standing nude right in front of me as we speak.
I love you so much, darling. You're doing a great job.
Thanks, Dad.
Oof, it's so chilly in here.
But because I'm aware that seeing my father naked causes these thoughts, I know to look somewhere else, like on the other side of the room where my brother is standing naked.
Hey, Laura, pay no attention to me.
Will do, Jeffrey. See, not thinking about my father naked.
Wow, and now I'm thinking about your father and brother naked instead of my own. You're good, Dr. Dalbert.
Well, thank you. Years of practice.
Really helpful stuff. I want to thank Dr. Laura Dalbert for coming on today. If you or a loved one can't stop thinking about your own father bending his naked body over and using his wrinkled hands to spread his hairy little ass cheeks, you can find a list of helpful resources at our website. We'll be back in a moment. Your daddy's little ding-dong isn't the only thing going on in the world today, so listen up. Here's what else you need to know today. Move over MAGA. The Trump campaign has announced they'll be unveiling a brand new all-coughing slogan for supporters to chant at future rallies. The president's re-election team is confident the new hack-filled rallying cry will quickly catch on among the large enthusiastic crowds, and they're hopeful that it could even spread beyond the president's supporter base. And the man looking to take down President Trump in November is feeling pretty good today, too. Joe Biden was reportedly very flattered to find out that his 1994 crime bill is suddenly receiving so much attention. Calling it, quote, one of his better pieces of work, the presidential hopeful found it incredibly gratifying to see so many people gravitating toward his Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act, even so many years after writing it. And finally, some good news today, as a new report has found that everything we're going through right now is going to be a goddamn walk in the park compared to what's coming in 2027. Always good to hear. And that's the topical for today. I'm Leslie Price. As the son of a father, I want to take a moment to wish all the dads out there listening a wonderful Father's Day. The effect you have on a child is truly unlike any other. Sorry, moms. If my father hadn't totally avoided a relationship with me growing up, he might have pushed me to be the best version of myself and to do something meaningful with my life. But thankfully, he didn't give a shit about me. So I ended up with this cushy gig getting paid every day to read off of a piece of paper. And I couldn't be happier. So thanks, Dad. And thank you all as always for listening. Have a happy Father's Day. The news doesn't stop just because this YouTube video has. For even more on all the worst things happening in the world right now, listen and subscribe to The Topical on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts, you insatiable news freaks.